the steps of the battle and everything that happens. And then he eventually kills one of the mimics kind of by accident when he figures out how to turn the safety off his weapon and enable the guns. And then he kills an even bigger mimic, but this is a unique mimic because instead of the smaller yellow glowing ones, this is a blue mimic called an alpha. And the rarity of them is like 1 in 6 million, I think they say.
Yeah.
So it's a very rare alien to see on a battlefield. And he kills it with a claymore that explodes in front of you. And when he blows up the mimic, the alpha's blood pours into Cage's body while he's dying. He's not dead yet. And so before his death, he becomes infused with the new power of the mimics. And so he wakes up and restarts the same day over again.
Yeah, and so the Omega, which is the overall controlling brain of the mimics, its ability to reset the day gets transferred into Cage's character. And so this is what this is what gives him that power.
Yeah, and basically the mimics are kind of like this giant being, this one central nervous system that the Omega can control all of its other mimics and alphas through this connection, and this restarting of the day is how they become so good at warfare.
Mm-hmm. And then it's great because when the day is restarted for the first time and Cage is slowly learning what's happening, I love that he tries to tell everyone what's happening, and then the first thing, the way that people react to him is they duct tape his mouth shut.
Yeah. And this is where the movie, it goes from being like kind of terrifying, this crazy action, and then all of a sudden now it's super fun and it's really funny.
Yeah.
And there are all these hilarious versions of days that he wakes up and tries to figure out to escape where he's at, trying to survive as best as he can.
I love the deaths in this movie. They're so funny. Like there's the time where he tries to roll under the truck and he gets run over by the truck, and Bill Paxton's like, "Oh my Lord, what the hell were you thinking?" And there's the time he tries to save the big guy from the plane landing on him, and he pushes him out of the way, and the plane lands on him instead.
Yeah, it's really funny. But then eventually, after reliving the day so many times, he comes into contact with Rita on the battlefield, and she sees that he's become so efficient at killing. He knows where the mimics are going to be, and he shoots them without even looking at them. She realizes that now he has the power that she once had, and she tells him to find her when he wakes up. Yeah, and so he wakes up, and this is when he finally finds Rita during her training, where she's doing that crazy two-arm yoga pose holding up her entire body, which Emily Blunt can actually do.
It's a crazy plank. I could never do that.
But I think they used wires for the movie because you have to do so many goddamn takes, but she could actually do it in real life at the time because she was in tremendous shape for this movie.
Mm-hmm. And then we learn Rita's story, how she did the same thing. She had the same power, but then she lost it because she was injured in battle and lost blood and passed out before she could kill herself. And so we learn that Cage has to die. If he's injured in battle, he has to die. He has to kill himself because if he gets a blood transfusion, he will lose the power to reset the day, and then they're all screwed. Because what's happened is, since the mimics have been able to restart the day over and over again, who knows how many times they restarted the day, that's why they know that the human invasion is coming, and that's why they're prepared for the invasion. And so Cage and Rita pretty much have to use their own weapon against them and figure out how to battle against the mimics' new strategy.
And to find the Omega. So then we learn through the scientists that Rita has been secretly communicating with, that they have the theory of the Omega, and Cage also has a vision of the Omega somewhere in like this big giant dam in the middle of nowhere. And so Rita's training him, and they're also trying to figure out how to get to the Omega.
So once they do finally locate them, so the plan changes from once they do finally know where the Omega is, which is in Germany. The new plan is Cage has to find a way to get them off the beach. And then this begins this huge mission where Cage dies over and over and over and over again, and he's struggling to find a way to get him and Rita off this beach because the battle is so massive and so deadly. They keep dying over, and it gets to the point where Cage becomes he loses his will, he loses his motivation, and you can see that he's sick of it because he's died so many times, and no matter what he tries, no matter what strategy they do, they keep failing. And then you can see it in his eyes, and he's lost his motivation and kind of lost his will to keep going.
Yeah, and because also she's training Cage to be like the greatest fighter of them all. And so there's a ton of training montages where it's actually kind of funny where he breaks his back and she keeps having to kill him. And he's like, wait, don't kill me.
Yeah.
She's like, we're just going to have to start over again.
But you can really see that Cage is starting to lose hope in the ability to get off the beach.
Yeah, like there's that one instance where he doesn't even go to training. He just goes to a bar in the middle of the city.
He's just
to
sick
have
of
a beer.
He's sick of it. He just wants to be like, he's just like, you know what, I'm not going to do it today.
But then he goes out into the bridge and he realizes and sees that the mimics are going to take over all the cities.
Yeah.
And so that he has to get back to work.
Yeah.
And this is one of the most complex roles I think Cruz has played in years. Like normally he's just playing great action hero saving the world, which I love. But this is a really complex character because Cage goes through so many transformations as a character.
Yeah.
And I think Cruz does a phenomenal job with it. And again, Cage is sick of everything. He's sick of being trained by Rita for the time being. He just wants to do it all by himself.
He's also sick of seeing her die because
Yeah.
you can see that he's starting to develop emotional connection to her, and so he doesn't want to keep watching her die over and over again.
Yeah, the problem with Cage is he's seeing her every day and spending so much time with her, but every time he meets Rita, he's a stranger to her.
Yeah.
And he's getting sick of it because he's developing feelings for her. So he decides to go on this one-man mission to go find the Omega. And so he eventually finds out where his vision was occurring and learns that it was a trap that the Omega planted for him. He gets there, and they know he has their power. They won't kill him. They're trying to bleed the power out of him. But eventually, he fortunately escapes the Alpha and the Mimic and dies and wakes up.
Yeah.
And so now they realize that they have to figure out where the Omega actually is now.
Yeah,
And the only way to find that out is to go back to the General and get what's inside of his safe.
Yeah, so inside the general safe is like this kind of device that engineer built, which
It's an antenna.
which if they jam it into Cage to connect it with his blood, they'll be able to track down where the Omega is. And so he and Rita go on this mission, which they obviously do hundreds of times because it gets to the point where Cage knows everyone's move in the embassy and where to go. But then up to this point, the stakes of this movie, they're pretty much gone because since Cage can reset the day, when he fails and when he dies, it doesn't really mean anything. Just like when you play a video game, when you fail, yeah, it's annoying, but like you're just going to be able to play again. You restart or respawn where you just were. So the stakes have no meaning. And then since the stakes aren't there anymore, the filmmakers and writers decided on this brilliant take where the best way to continue the story is to create the stakes again. When Rita and Cage get the antenna, they plug it into him, and then Cage finally sees that the Omega is actually in France at the Louvre. But then they crash their car, and they both pass out. And then Cage wakes up in a hospital room, and he's gone through a blood transfusion, and he's lost the power. And so now the stakes are as high as they can be. There were no stakes before because he could keep resetting the day, but now it's like you're playing a video game and you can't save it and you can't reset. So there's no way he can fail. Failure means the end of civilization. So now the stakes have risen and the story gets vastly more interesting.
And this is where Cage and Rita escape. She almost kills him because she's like, all right, we just got to reset the day.
Yeah.
He's like, no, I got a blood transfusion. Don't kill me. Now Rita and Cage enlist the help of those Marines from his barracks, and they eventually convince them to go. And basically these dudes are just going to be a bunch of people to die so they can get to the Omega. Because now they're going to France to the Louvre, which is a really cool place to put the where the Omega should be.
Oh, yeah. You can really understand, like, the gravity of if they fail, it's over.
Yeah, even Rita says to him, like, you can't reset, like, when he's doing something risky that he might die at.
Yeah.
And so basically, the film ends where they locate the Omega and Rita,
It's a great battle sequence, great action sequence, and they finally get into the Louvre.
Yeah, and Rita kind of draws the Omega's alphas out so that Cage has a shot at destroying the Omega, and he dives headfirst towards their deaths to destroy the Omega with a bomb, with grenades or something like that. Again, at this point, Cage has lost his ability to reset the day, but he successfully blows up the Omega, but at the same time, the blood of the Omega goes back inside of him. And then we wake up with Cage again, and he restarts the day, and then it goes to Rita, and he just smiles at her.
But also, when the day's restarted, it has this great tight close-up of his face, so it restarts, and we think for a second, oh no, he's back to where he started again. But then we pull out, and we see that he's actually in the helicopter. So we woke up, and the day was restarted, but he's in a different location, and it's a different time, so things have changed.
He has his officer's uniform on.
Yeah, and so we learned that in this new reality, the humans have discovered that through some kind of energetic pulse, all of the mimics have been killed. They don't know why, but obviously Cage knows, and Cage is the only one who will ever know. And then he finds Rita, and then you think he's gonna say something, but then he just like gives that smirk and like a little laugh to himself, and it's a great cut to the end.
That Tom Cruise ending.
Yeah, that Tom Cruise smile.
And I love the ending of this movie because it's like, is he trapped in another loop? And so, like, if he dies of old age, does he go back and reset to that
Yeah, like
day?
if he grows old with Rita and then he dies, will he reset and he'll be back in the helicopter again? Maybe he's gonna live in like this infinite limbo.
Well, then he would just have to bleed out and die. He'll lose it forever.
Yeah,
but it's kind of interesting to think about, like, because it's this new reality and this new reset. So
Yeah.
I bet you he can just live out that life over and over again.
There's also this idea that I was thinking about watching this is when Cage resets each day, does that mean he's creating a new alternate reality, a multiverse? So by resetting each day, you create this multiverse of different realities, and all the other realities where he failed, the humans are killed by the mimics.
And in all of those individual realities, he's creating new realities. So it's just an infinite reality.
Yeah, so it creates like this whole idea of a multiverse.
It's just like Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
I think that's super interesting and probably plausible.
As good as this movie is, it was a huge box office flop.
Yeah, I think it only made like 260 or something like that.
Yeah,
right?
worldwide. It just made nothing, and they lost money on it. I think they ended up making a little bit back on DVD sales and VOD, but ultimately, a sequel isn't going to be made and hasn't been made because it failed so bad.
I think they think it's because of the title. They changed it from Live, Die, Repeat to Edge of Tomorrow. I think Live, Die, Repeat was probably the better title. And even All You Need is Death, or All You Need is Kill is a really cool name, too. I think Edge of Tomorrow is probably the wrong title for it.
I don't know, but I mean, I think the trailer maybe I don't think the marketing, I agree, I don't think the marketing did a good job of selling this movie.
It's the same thing with the Harley Quinn movie, like the Emancipation of Harley Quinn. That's just like a title that a lot of people wouldn't look at and be like, "What is this movie?" You gotta let your people know what the movie's about.
Yeah.
Edge of Tomorrow, you see that title, it can be like a crime drama with Mel Gibson. You know, It can be anything.
Yeah,
But Live, Die, Repeat, that's a pretty cool title. I think they should have kept it like that.
It ended up being the tagline.
I think they didn't want to have like the word die in the title of a movie. But,
Maybe, yeah.
But I mean, Die Hard's so successful.
Yeah. The fun fact about this movie is, so Christopher McQuarrie wrote the script for this, and he ended up working with Tom Cruise on the Mission Impossible movies. But so Christopher McQuarrie started writing the script 4 weeks before production started.
But then they had already had a spec script made.
They had several drafts made, but then they just erased everything because they weren't happy with any of it, and they pretty much started from scratch.
Wow.
4 weeks out. And because of this, they ended up filming the movie in mostly chronological order, so that way they could pretty much figure out the ending as they were going along. So they were writing as they went along.
Yeah, because I know there was an original spec script which a writer sold for like $1 million.
Yeah, but that ended up getting trashed.
Yeah, but it was also on the blacklist as one of the most favorited unmade movies for a while too. But yeah, I guess McQuarrie's like, hey, I can do good idea, but let me one up that.
Yeah. And there's the scene where Emily Blunt is driving that van. During one of the takes, she actually crashed it into a tree and nearly killed Tom Cruise, who was in the passenger seat.
Yeah, but they just laughed it off.
Yeah.
Because Tom Cruise is great.
He never dies.
He's basically a stuntman. And also, Emily Blunt got pregnant during production of this movie, and she didn't shoot a bunch of her stunt reshoots. And it was a very well-kept secret that only a very few people knew about her pregnancy from John Krasinski, because, you know, Jim's got to get that in.
I think that another reason why the movie maybe didn't do as well in the box office is because I think a lot of people still feel this way, but I think that at this time a lot of the public opinion towards Tom Cruise was very negative, and I think he still deals with this very much because yes, he's a Scientologist, he's done some wild things on camera in the past, but I think that people have this when they hear Tom Cruise. When I talk to people about Tom Cruise, oftentimes like, oh, he's crazy. Oh, he's a Scientologist. But I just feel like it doesn't really matter. You know what I mean? He just makes movies, and if you like the movies, you like them. You shouldn't judge the person before you go to decide whether you enjoy the art that they help make.
Yeah, he has questionable actions in his personal life for sure with his family and everything, and kind of like abandoning his daughter and then following the Scientology religion. But you know, that's his personal choice in his personal life. I like to take the personal life out of movies mostly. Yeah. Especially when like people aren't getting hurt, so it's okay. It's just his choice. He financially supports his family and everything, but he's just a big action movie star, and that's what I like Tom Cruise, and I want to watch Tom Cruise movies. And again, in terms of success, I think this was like the first movie of his in like over a decade that was in the Mission Impossible franchise to gross $100 million.
Yeah.
So like he was having a lot of box office bombs domestically with non-Mission Impossible films.
Yeah.
And this, even though it was kind of a bomb, still made a lot of money.
And a lot of people ended up loving the film. It became a cult movie.
Yeah, so Edge of Tomorrow, it's a really, really great movie. It's a perfect blockbuster summer movie.
Yeah.
Awesome sci-fi. It's original as hell. It's a blast. It really is.
It's a lot of fun, and that's why it's on this list, because it's not as thought-provoking or intense or high in theory as the other films on this list. But for me, I feel like this is a great action sci-fi adventure that's a lot of fun, and I enjoy it every time I see it.